Joining me now from Washington, D.C., commentary writer with the Heritage Foundation, Jarrett Stepman. Jarrett, this is nothing more than a political effort, really orchestrated by large populous states led by Democrats. These are states that have huge amounts of Democrat voters, blue states, if you will. Think California and New York and Illinois, in order to make over the way we elect presidents in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. This effort really goes back to 2016, and I think a lot of bitterness over the election of President Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. If you look at the states that have signed on to this compact, they are all blue states. Colorado is the only somewhat purple-leaning state, but of course they have a very active progressive network in that state that pushes legislation in a left-leaning direction. You really have no red states that have signed on to this at all, which creates a huge barrier. I mean, as far as the states that could potentially sign on to this, I mean, there's Delaware, there's perhaps New Mexico where this is being debated. Again, blue states, they're still a ways off from getting anything even close to a bare majority of states. And they certainly are nowhere even close to getting a supermajority of states or anything that would allow them to actually pass a constitutional amendment, which is the proper and right way to change constitutional laws in this country.
Right. I want to talk about that in a minute. But Delaware, you mentioned, would be signing its own death warrant in terms of the political process of electing presidents. If they signed on to this compact, it's insane. I want to explore that in a second also. But here we have Obama's Attorney General, Eric Holder, leading the charge on this. And he tweeted about this, and it's fascinating what he tweeted. Time to make the Electoral College a vestige of the past. It's undemocratic, forces candidates to ignore the majority of voters and campaign in a small number of states. The presidency is our one national office and should be decided directly by the voters. Number one, he should understand that the framers of the Constitution did not create a democracy here. We have a constitutional and/or a representative republic. They rejected a straight democracy, and of course that's what Eric Holder is hawking here. And number two, he's got it backwards in terms of campaigning. If we went to a system of popular voting, then a Hillary Clinton, all she would have to do is campaign in California and in Illinois and in New York, possibly Florida, throw in there a couple other states, and she'd never have to go see the others.
That's entirely correct. And that's exactly what the founders wanted to counter. They didn't want just the big populous states in this country to decide who our presidents would be. They thought that eventually the farmers of Iowa would have a voice in our elections like those who are living in California. I mean, I think that's a basic tenet of what the founders believe. And what's very interesting is the founders disagreed on many things, but this is one of the things that they actually agreed on the most at the convention. This was something that Alexander Hamilton wrote about in the Federalist Papers, Federalist 68, that he said this system is excellent for the American people. It's the most perfect design for our country. It's not an absolutely perfect system, but it is an excellent one. It's served this republic for over 200 years. It's led to the elections of people like George Washington, like Abraham Lincoln. Does this show that our election system is broken in this country? I think not. It's been the most stable in the world.
And you're right. This is one of the few things the framers agreed upon. And there was a lot of consternation, a lot of arguments during the Constitutional Convention. But this is one that was largely agreed upon. And it's in Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution. But the bottom line is this is a federalist system. And this worries me more than anything, Jarrett, because if these states sign on, it shows that there's a problem within our country in terms of understanding why we have a electoral college instead of a direct vote. The American people, I guess, enough American people, certain percentage of American people, don't quite comprehend what's going on here. In fact, they have to look at it this way, I think. The way I would explain it to someone, if they didn't quite understand, is that in this country, the popular vote is meaningless. And the framers of the Constitution wanted it that way.
That's absolutely right. And I think it's very interesting, especially with this national popular vote initiative. In some ways, it deprives democracy within these states. I mean, if you're somebody in Colorado, the national popular vote has a very thin margin that goes differently from how your state voted. You are essentially disenfranchising the voters in your own state. I think that's what's particularly heinous about this initiative is that you could be potentially disenfranchising a lot of voters within your own states. That's make this unique. It makes it very different. And I think it's why it's ultimately unconstitutional. It's against our constitutional system.
Right. And the great example is if Colorado, who's thinking about joining, apparently they're going to, if Colorado, the state at large, votes Democrat, but the nation votes Republican, then they're hand-strapped under this compact to send the votes the other way. And
want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.